उस वक्त जिया उल हक ने एक ऐसी बात बोली जो मेरे जहन में गड़ गई। ब्लीड इंडिया विद 1,000 cuts.
Hello and welcome to Unacademy. The trailer for the Bollywood movie Dhurandhar just dropped on YouTube a few hours ago and it has been garnering lakhs of views. I'm sure many of you must have already seen the trailer. But you might be wondering why a UPSC educator is talking about a Bollywood movie trailer. See, that's because the trailer does have some relevance with regard to India-Pakistan relations. There are a couple of important topics that the trailer brings up, and I thought let's discuss this in a short and quick video. If you've seen the trailer, the character played by Arjun Rampal makes a reference to Pakistani strategy of bleeding India with 1,000 cuts. This is a reference to Pakistan's covert proxy war against India. The movie itself is based on the alleged Indian retaliation, the alleged Indian covert operations aimed at dismantling Pakistan's terror network. So let's cover these two topics, which are extremely important for India-Pakistan relations and India's approach towards counter-terrorism. But before we start the discussion, I have a very important announcement. Unacademy will be conducting India's biggest scholarship test for IAS aspirants this Sunday on the 23rd of November. So the test will be conducted at 11 a.m. and as well as at 5 p.m. And by taking up the test, you get a chance to attempt a UPSC standard question paper. You can check your performance, compare it with other peers and get an all India rank. And the best part is that the top performers stand a chance to win attractive rewards and as well as a scholarship for our IAS courses. So those interested, please click on the link provided in the video description. Now coming back to our discussion, I was mentioning the dialogue by Arjun Rampal, where he refers to hearing from Zia ul Haq on a radio speech, where he makes a mention of bleeding India with 1,000 cuts. So this is a well-acknowledged Pakistani strategy that was adopted after the 1971 war. The 1971 war was a pivotal moment for Pakistan and in the history of India-Pakistan relations. India played a direct role in the liberation of Bangladesh. India provided covert support to Mukti Bahini rebels in Bangladesh, which was then East Pakistan. We aided the Bengali liberation movement, backed the Awami League, the Shanti Bahini movement led by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and even fought a direct overt war with Pakistan in 1971 to break the country into two parts. Now, this was Pakistan's most embarrassing moment. Pakistan not only lost more than half of its territory, but 93,000 Pakistani soldiers were captured by India as prisoners of war. So following this humiliating defeat, Pakistan officially surrendered to India, signing the instrument of surrender. So this moment has been etched in history. It has been etched in the minds of the Pakistani elite as the most embarrassing moment for the nation. So following this, in 1970s, the Pakistani leadership, especially the military establishment, the deep state comprising of the Pakistani Armed Forces and its intelligence agency, the ISI, they made a commitment to take revenge against India. It is in this context that the statement is attributed to Zia ul Haq, the then Pakistani military dictator, of having given a call to bleed India with 1,000 cuts. But what does it mean? This was a reference to adopt a different strategy to target India and to weaken India from within. Because please understand, by 1971, Pakistan had learnt a crucial lesson. It had already fought three overt wars with India: 1947-48 over the Kashmir issue, 1965 war again over the Kashmir issue, and 1971 with regard to liberation of Bangladesh. Now, these were conventional wars, and Pakistan had failed to achieve any of its objectives, and India had clearly gained the upper hand. So this made Pakistan realize that India is a vastly superior power with regard to its conventional military. Pakistan learned this lesson post 1971 that India can't be defeated in an open confrontation, in an overt conventional war. And also don't forget, conventional wars are expensive. You need to build up your armed forces, you need to modernize them, you need to procure military assets from naval ships to submarines to fighter jets to battle tanks, which means you will incur a lot of expenditure on your military preparedness and modernization. And conventional wars are costly in terms of human cost involved. You may have to sacrifice thousands of your soldiers and civilian lives. So, such a costly war in terms of money and human cost cannot be sustained for a long term. And more importantly, conventional wars may not have a decisive outcome. There may not be a clear winner or a loser. 1971 was an exception for India, but in general, in a traditional conflict, it's hard to define as to who won the conflict. Both sides often tend to claim victory in conventional wars. So you may not achieve your desired strategic objectives or military objectives. Whereas Pakistan realized that if it relies on the covert proxy option, it might have an upper hand over India. Because such a war is fought through proxies, where state actors, such as Pakistan's military establishment and the intelligence agency ISI, they will sponsor non-state actors, essentially terrorist organizations who are funded, trained, and groomed by the state establishment to wage a secret war against India. And these links between state and non state actors will remain covert. That is the specialization of an intelligence agency to create covert channels in order to provide financing for terrorist groups, to arrange for arms, weapons, provide them with military grade training, allow them to set up terror sanctuaries, give them a safe haven so that they can freely operate from across the border and engage in cross border terrorism. So Pakistan from 1970s onwards quickly leveraged upon this strategy. It was a cheaper option, much more convenient option for Pakistan. Because the money involved in such a covert proxy war would be minimal. A few lakh dollars, few $1 million would be more than sufficient to fuel and sustain such a conflict. And more importantly, you're not risking the lives of your soldiers and civilians. It's the lives of few brainwashed and radicalized youth. A few hundred, few thousand terrorists are enough to wage this secret war on behalf of Pakistan. So Pakistan learned that covert proxy option is cheaper, it's more economical in terms of money and as well as in terms of human cost. And more importantly, you get the advantage of plausible deniability. You can plausibly deny your involvement because the links between the state and non-state actors, they remain secret. They are covert. An intelligence agency like Pakistan's ISI would know very well how to cover their tracks through their trade craft. So this allows Pakistan to evade any responsibility for sponsoring terrorism and use this as a powerful weapon to divide the Indian society on communal lines, to turn this into a Hindu-Muslim issue in India and exploit the communal divides in the country and thus rupture India from within. So instead of striking India with one blow through one conventional war, the strategy was to keep on hitting India repeatedly at the weak points, such as Kashmir, Punjab, and the rest of the country, and create internal divisions and ensure that India bleeds across places, across the society to weaken the Indian polity. So this has been the Pakistani strategy over the last 5 decades. And that is exactly what the movie makers are referring to as well. Now, coming to Pakistan's covert proxy war, we have seen how Pakistan has focused on Punjab, Kashmir, and later across India to spread terrorism and to destabilize India. It all starts with the Afghan conflict of 1970s, 1980s. By 1979, in neighboring Afghanistan, Pakistan found a great opportunity to experiment with covert proxy warfare because Soviet Union, as a result of the Cold War rivalries with United States, had invaded and occupied Afghanistan at that point. Following this, US was looking for an opportunity to target the Soviet forces, and Pakistan became the most convenient ally. Pakistan has the habit of being a client state willingly. So there was a collusion between the American intelligence agency CIA and Pakistan's ISI, where US would provide for funds and weapons along with other allies like Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan would help in creating the Afghan Mujahideen by radicalizing the Pashtuns, by creating the terror infrastructure, and use the Mujahideen to wage an insurgent war against the occupying Soviet forces. So Pakistan now had become pivotal for the US. It had become a critical partner for European powers as well, for Saudi Arabia. It had the blessings of these major powers. So it conveniently diverted a part of these funds and weapons towards India to nurture anti India terror groups. It all started with Punjab in 1980s, where Pakistan's ISI played a direct role in sponsoring the Khalistan movement. From across the border, there was a pumping of drugs from the Afghan Pakistan route. There was direct supply of arms and weapons. Khalistani terror leaders were accommodated in Pakistan, given a shelter, a safe haven to operate. That is the reason why Khalistan movement became our biggest security nightmare in the 1980s. Then an opportunity opened up in Kashmir following the allegations of the Kashmir elections being rigged, starting with which separatism broke out. And we saw the rise of insurgency and terrorism, which was directly fueled by Pakistan. In fact, Pakistan even brought in Mujahideen fighters from Afghanistan who were free, because by 1989, Soviet Union had retreated. So in the late 80s, we saw Pakistan nurturing anti-India terror groups focused on the Kashmir issue. Terror groups like Hizbul Mujahideen, Lashkar-e-Toiba, Harkatul Mujahideen, they started propping up, and they started posing a major threat for India's security in Jammu and Kashmir. Then post 1990s, following the communal polarization in the Indian subcontinent, Pakistan started spreading the terror networks, setting up sleeper modules for these terror groups. By then, we even had Jaish-e-Mohammed, which was set up in 1999, which would go on to be involved in several terror attacks across Indian cities, from Delhi to Mumbai to Jaipur to Varanasi to Bengaluru. Multiple cities have been targeted, and this has been Pakistan's go to strategy to target and weaken India. Now, coming to the last point, recently there have been these theories floating around on social media that India is running covert operations of its own aimed at dismantling the terror network. These allegations come up because in the last 3 years, especially from 2022 onwards, several wanted terrorists in Pakistan have fallen dead under mysterious circumstances. Many of them have been shot by unknown gunmen. Some of them have died in bomb blasts. And most of these assassinations, they are targeted assassinations. They have been attributed to India's intelligence agency, the Research and Analysis Wing. Several top leaders of Khalistani outfits, top leaders of Lashkar-e-Toiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Hizbul Mujahideen, many of them have been eliminated in Pakistan. And social media experts are linking this with India's intelligence operations. And that is exactly what the movie Dhurandhar is mainly based on. Now, are these allegations true? No one knows. Not me, not you, not the movie makers as well. If at all India is involved in such operations, it would remain classified for a long time to come. Though the movie claims it is based on true and verifiable events, I largely feel the trailer indicates an exaggerated version of what might have happened. So, with regard to these allegations, no one would be in a position to confirm or deny with regard to such involvement of India. But India's official stated policy is that we are not involved in targeted killings and assassinations. We don't wage such covert proxy wars against other countries. But however, there are some examples in history which is very well verified based on credible sources. It reminds me of one covert experiment of India to target and weaken the Khalistan movement in the 1980s, which had become the biggest security nightmare for India. It was the Rajiv Gandhi government back then, following the assassination of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. So when the Khalistani threat was considered as a serious challenge, it is said that India's RAW was authorized by the Prime Minister to engage in tit-for-tat operations. Now, how do we know this? B. Raman, a former IPS officer who served as the secretary, additional secretary in the Research and Analysis Wing. He headed the counterterrorism desk of RAW. And post-retirement, he goes on to write a very popular book, The Cowboys of RAW, where he details some of RAW's operations from 1970s onwards. And he sheds some light on India's covert involvement in Pakistan. So, based on the directions of the Prime Minister, RAW set up two elite covert units, CITJ and CITX, Covert Intelligence Team, J and X. They had a mandate to target the terror networks in Pakistan, particularly the Khalistani modules, target the links of ISI with these Khalistani terrorists, and even to engage in tit for tat bombings and operations in Pakistan. The idea was to impose a cost on Pakistan, to make this covert war costlier and expensive so that Pakistan can be pushed back. So, according to B. Raman, this covert war of India led to increase in violence in Pakistan. It led to Pakistan taking a back step, and eventually RAW and ISI reached a negotiated settlement to back off from such covert wars. According to B. Raman and other verifiable sources, it was the then king of Jordan who acted as a mediator, as he was very close to Rajiv Gandhi and as well as to the Pakistani military establishment. So he offered Jordan's capital, Amman, as a neutral location where the chiefs of RAW and ISI met and worked out an arrangement to stop these tit for tat covert attacks against each other. So there is a history of such Indian covert operations in Pakistan. But right now, the recent killings that we have seen of wanted terrorists, is there an Indian involvement? It's very hard to guess, as I said. And let's not get into speculation and conspiracy theories. That's none of our business. But eventually, you will probably realize whether, if at all, there was any Indian involvement or not. So, this is what I wanted to discuss with you today. And I hope it has given you some insight into the India Pakistan relationship. So, on this note, I bring my discussion to an end. Let me know in the comments if you're going to watch this movie. And if you like the discussion, do press the like button and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.